go. And we're in. Okay, we'll let people just join real quickly here. And I will just start presenting. Okay. So hey guys, welcome back to another Leadfeeder webinar. Been giving you guys a little bit of time off over the past couple of months, or I think the last one we had was maybe about 7 weeks ago or so. Everybody, I hope, has enjoyed a bit of sunshine in the meantime, depending on where in the world you are. If you're maybe down under, which is probably not a great time for you right now in terms of time zones, but if you're down under, maybe you enjoyed a bit of cooler weather, I don't know. But so this time around, we're really happy to be talking about something that for me is a really interesting topic just because of the simplicity of it. So whenever I'm talking about myself, typically I don't refer to myself as somebody that's incredibly complex. I prefer things to be kept a little bit easier. The guy I have on with me today, Alex, is somebody that just focuses on that and keeps things simple, which is, you know, I think that the name of the game. I think sales can be a real complex process and people can make it very complex and very complicated. But with Alex, he makes things very simple. He puts it into a very easy structure. And I think people are going to get a lot of benefit out of today. Just as we're going on now, just some housekeeping. What we will do is we have the chat window here where I'd encourage people to maybe post and ask people to ask any questions that they may have. Myself and Alex will be having almost like a conversation almost. We'll go through a little bit of an intro now, and then I'll hand it over to Alex, and then I'll make some points in between and go back and forth a little bit there. But yeah, so, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, as I said. We'll also then towards the end have a couple of minutes for Q&A. So if you don't manage to get your question answered during the chat, we'll have probably 15 minutes at the end for a Q&A. So just to start off, let me just introduce myself, Andy Culligan, CMO here at Leadfeeder, and then Alex Goldfayn. Let me start by introducing our speaker, the man of the moment here. So Alex is a really interesting character. This isn't the first time that we've spoken. So we've had a couple of conversations over the past few weeks. We did some other content together, and it's every conversation we've had so far, Alex, has been super interesting, I find, you know, and as I said before, I really enjoy and appreciate your approach to selling, keeping it simple, making sure that it's understandable en masse. As I said to you yesterday, I think in one of my LinkedIn comments to you, is that you make it approachable en masse to salespeople, right? Depending on it's not reliant on any one specific industry. You don't need to be in tech. You don't need to be in SaaS. You don't need to be in manufacturing. It works across industries. It's it's incredible what you've managed to do there in terms of the books that you've released, but also the fact that I think I put this on LinkedIn the other day, that you're in your spare time, you're a CEO of of an agency with that's got an income of 7 digits, you know. So really happy to have you on board today, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Andy. I'm excited about this. You know, I told you this before we started, I'm doing 55 different things like this for the book. This is the launch week of 5-Minute Selling. And so we have all these interviews coming up, and I'm particularly excited about this one. Also, it's the first one of the day that we'll have 5 today. And so you'll get more energy than anybody else. And finally, I would like to say that the photo on the screen doesn't look very much like me anymore, does it? As you can see, things are a lot more old and gray now compared
distinguished,
to
distinguished.
Yeah, distinguished. So the headshot on the screen is probably something like 7 or 8 years old. And there's been several iterations of headshots since. But I'm at the time of my life, Andy, I don't know if you could relate, that I'm aging, at least the look of aging is coming very quickly, right? The aging features are besetting upon me very quickly. So every year I look back at photos and I'm like, gosh, I feel like I look way older now than I did back then. So that I'm in my mid 40s now. Yesterday I turned 44. So right about somewhere around there, it started accelerating. Yeah, thank you.
What a week to be celebrating your birthday, mate, with the book being launched as well. Like, let me go into the books real quick, just so people get a bit of background as well. So starting off in 2012 with evangelist marketing, And then 2015 with the revenue growth habit, that was probably where you started off with getting the most recognition from what I can see. Alex, is from you were listed in Forbes then top 15 business books of that year in 2015 with the revenue growth habit. And then also with this 800 CEO Read Best Business Book Awards in 2015 with that. And then also Selling Boldly in 2018, being recognized by the Wall Street Journal as a bestseller. I mean, how are you feeling now with the launch of 5 Minute Selling this week? Are you excited, nervous? How are things going with it?
So it's always a really exciting time. And yeah, I mean, you're nervous at how the book that's been in your head for a long time is going to be received by people who are among the earliest readers, right? So especially when you start to get the first bits of feedback, you get it out to the early reviewers and you get the first bits drifting back in. And so it's both, but it's been a really, really good week so far. So the book came out 2 days ago, right? It's 48 hours on the market. It came out Tuesday, started shipping Tuesday. We started heavily promoting Monday, and it's been a #1 new release all week on Amazon, which is kind of where you look. So it's been at the top of the sales and selling category. It's been at the top of other categories. Amazon assigns you random categories as to what it thinks the book is in. So we're in the accounting category is one of our categories. Like there's 3 categories on the book side, and then on the Kindle side, there's 3 other categories that are completely different. So you can see how technical and detailed this is. And so the book is going well. It's been a good launch. Feedback has been positive. Reviews are good. And coming in, it's exciting, and it's also kind of nerve-wracking, both.
That's good. That's good. I mean, nerves have to be there, man. If nerves weren't there, you'd be doing something wrong. It's the way I see things. It's the same before a big presentation or something like that. If you didn't have nerves, either there's something wrong with you or there's something wrong with what you're presenting, probably. But with that, let's start by going into, I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick because, as I said, this is going to be you bringing us through your structure. And I think the best way for you to present it is you just, coming from you. And we've been through it already before, and it's something that's been really interesting to me. So, Alex, why don't you bring us through the structure of 5 Minute Selling and what people can do at the moment, or what they can implement, or what they can walk away with from this conversation today and be like, okay, I can actually go implement something. I can make this as part of my sales structure, part of my learning structure. So hand it over to you, mate.
Yeah. And as discussed, jump in at any moment. I think probably the more we hear of you, the better this goes. So
yes, for sure.
I'd love to have a conversation, not a presentation here. So thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it, guys. I see you here. And as Andy said, please do jump into the Q&A and the chat box. We will be reading them as you put them up. And so we'll, even if it's not a question, but you agree or disagree with something, right? You like something or you don't like something, or you have an experience that relates to what we're saying, please do jump in, and we'll absolutely address your question or your comment or your experience in real time. So the book is about how to grow your sales significantly in 5 minutes a day of proactive communications. So the idea is that you can communicate with your customers and prospects, people that you know. That's the key. We want people that you know, not people you don't know. And the work is to try to help them some more in system for just 5 combined minutes a day. And I've seen, over 10,000 client salespeople go through this work, because everything in the book, I take my clients through it. Andy said I run a consulting practice, and so I do the things that are in the book. It's not theory in a book. It's not professorial, college theory. It's in a book, but it's all stuff that gets done every day by many thousands of people. And so we know it works. And so today we're going to talk about the things that you can do. I think we should probably talk about mindset, Andy, right? And the thinking, because we can't outsell our mindset. We can only perform up to our mindset. And so the mindset is the key. And then I think we should talk about the system and the process of doing the things, right? So we have the techniques themselves, the mindset, and then the system and the process.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. I'll just check in to see if we have any questions. Let me just have a quick look into the Q&A. Nothing in there just yet, nothing in the chat just yet. So as we said, like if there's any questions at all, please feel free to start asking away. But yeah, please continue there, Alex.
Alex Lowe says, all Alexes make things simple. We try.
I know Alex Lowe. Alex Lowe was, you know, he's nice and relaxed now after being on his holidays last week in Greece. I seen him on a sailing boat on Greece last week. So Alex is nice and relaxed back now after his holidays the past week. So Alex, I hope you're doing well, mate. Good to see you.
Good. Yeah, back to work too, Alex. Enough relaxing. I'm glad to see you doing a little work. So, well, where do you want to go? Do you want to start with mindset and the thinking?
Yeah, let's start with mindset. Get me into the mindset.
I think that 90% of salespeople, Andy, operate reactively. You know, and we're really good at that. We're good at answering the phone because it rings all day. We're not sitting around with nothing to do. Customers are calling all day. And when they call, they have a problem or an issue or an urgency. They never call and say, listen, take 6 months. Whenever you're ready, get it to me. You know, take your time. Because when they're calling and they're picking up the phone, it's urgent automatically. Or they have a problem. So they're calling you to tell you you screwed it up, right? Or where the hell is it? Or my guys are standing around, you're killing me, right? Or you sent me the wrong thing. Or where the hell are you, right? We're about to start the meeting. I just got that email from Andy 10 minutes ago. So we spend our days talking to the 10 to 20% of customers who either have a problem or are unhappy. Because that's who calls. And because we do that all day, we don't have time to call out to anybody else. And so the other 80% who are good, who are happy, who nothing is wrong, they've been with you forever, they don't hear from us very much. It's kind of quiet. I'll give you an example. I have a client that's a distributor on the East Coast, a $40 million business. They have 1,000 customers total that buy from them every year throughout the year. Guess how many they talk to regularly? They have 8 customer-facing salespeople. Guess how many hear from them regularly, which means as infrequently as quarterly? 100. 100 hear from them. 900 do not. So here we're beyond the percentages that I just laid out. 900 customers do not hear from them out of 1,000. So I'm suggesting, and I'm actually working with them right now. This is an active project. You know, my recommendations to them is the same as my recommendations to you guys who are with us. Let's start talking to those people. Let's let them hear from us. Let's try to help them. It only takes 5 minutes. Look, in 5 minutes, let's talk practically here. I can leave 10 voicemails, Andy, right? In 5 minutes, I can leave 10 voice, and I've got a script for doing so here. I can say, Andy, it's Alex. I was thinking about you. I was just talking to another client who's having great success, and it reminded me of you because they're similar. Would love to hear your latest. Would love to catch up on how your family's doing and tell you a little bit about what's happening here. That's it. I mean, that's a 30 second. I just did that, in 15 seconds and then 15 more to call the number, right? Wait for the ringing. Now, sure. When I do that, go ahead.
So like, I think from my side, you know, having been in the position of sales before, there is this like mental block almost about picking up the phone. Like, totally. You know, I've had it, and it's harder to pick up the phone than maybe send an email or push out a LinkedIn note or something like that. So it's actually Alexander Lowe, who's, you know, just back from his holidays here, also left a note about does this include email comms or just physical calls? So I mean, what's your take on reaching out via email? Is that a strong enough touch? Or
Alex, the short answer is that in B2B, sending an email is almost the same thing as doing nothing. It's very close to doing nothing at all. And because you're just going to be one message with all the rest of the crap that's in their email. And you don't know, did you get to their inbox? You don't know. You know, did they see it with their eyes? You don't know. Did they process it with their brains? Nobody knows. You probably aren't going to get a reply, so you don't know what the hell's happening, right? Are they mad at you? Did they read it and they don't want it? You don't know anything. Maybe they saw, and then they got a call, and then they got 10 more emails on top of it, and then they just lost track of it. That's possible. So you don't know anything when you send an email. When you get on the phone, you know everything. You know if you connected with the person or not. You know if you talked to them or not. You know if you had a good conversation or a bad one. You know if you opened a piece of business or progressed it or closed it. So I think here, if you can see my screen here, I think face-to-face is up here at the top, right? I think the telephone is only slightly lower, because I can talk to a lot more people in a day than I can see. This is good for our current pandemic environment. And then I think we can come down about to the middle. That's the text message. This is the text. All the way at the bottom is the email. If doing nothing is a 0, an email is a 1 or 2, a text message is around 40 or 50, a telephone call is around 90, and in-person's 100.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I think just generally, I think that emails are a cop-out. Typically, like I'm terrible on email because I just don't write back to people. Like I've gotten in trouble lately because somebody was trying to contact me on email and I just didn't see it, you know, or I ignored it, you know. I've given some advice to people on my teams before that if you send an email, like, don't expect a reply. You know, it goes internally as well, internal communications. If you put together an email, you can spend anything up to an hour putting together a very detailed email. What I used to have a guy working. I said, just get up from your desk, go walk over to that person, and have a conversation with them instead of sending an essay to them. What are you expecting to get back from that?
Right. Let's address Mike's question here because it's a good one. Mike Marston says, "Is that okay, Andy?"
Yeah, go for it.
He says, "When calling prospects, I find virtually none answer the phone." So let's talk about that. So first, let's make sure we're calling people who we know and who know us. So when I say call people, I mean call people who you know. Call customers, call prospects, call people who would recognize your name, Mike, and people whose name you know. Now, that doesn't mean you know each other personally and well. That just means when you call, they know who you are, which can also mean they don't even know your name, but they know your company name, right? So at a minimum, we want to be recognized. Next, I agree that much of the time you will leave a message. So let's talk about that now, because I started talking about voicemails and then we veered. So let's come back to voicemails for a second. In 5 minutes, I can leave 10 messages like the one that I demonstrated, right? Let's do it again. Andy, it's Alex. I was thinking about you because I was working with a client who's similar to you. They're having awesome results, and it made me think of you and kind of wanted to connect and tell you about what we're doing over there because I think you can do it too. Now, what that really means is I can help Andy too. And then I would say, hope your family's well. Hope the kids have had an okay summer and school is starting up okay. Would love to catch up with you, hear your latest, and tell you a little bit about what's happening here. Now, Mike, when I leave those messages, about a half to 2/3 of the people call me back. A half to 2/3, because they want to know what's going on at the other client that they can also do to grow, right? Because I grow companies. So I'm giving them something that is going to be interesting to them, something compelling. And I'll tell them all about what we're doing so they can do it too if they want to, right? Yeah, Jenny says a half to 2/3 is pretty good. I think it's really good. Because here's why, Jenny. In 5 minutes, I do 10 of those. That means in a week, I can leave 50 voicemails in 5 minutes a day. That means in a month, it's 200 voicemails. That means in a year, it's 2,400 voicemails. Now, 1/2 to 2/3 call me back. A half of 2,400 is 1,200. So 1,200 proactive conversations with customers and prospects that I wasn't having yesterday. How can my business not grow if I'm having 1,200 proactive conversations? So if you do 5 minutes a day of voicemails, and let's say you screw it all up and only 1,000 call you back out of 2,400, that's 40%, right? Only 1,000 call you back. That's 1,000 conversations. So it's better than pretty good. It's spectacular because that's how many conversations you're going to have, right? And the script for what I just said is in here. So look, I know that everything Andy and I are talking about today, you guys already know. You know, we're probably not going to cover a lot of stuff today, Andy, that people don't know. You're professional salespeople. You sell for a living. You have to sell to feed your family, right? Like Andy and I do. And I know you know these things, but knowing doesn't make us any money. That's the thing about knowing. Doing makes the money, right? So I know you know. I'm not suggesting you don't, but I'm also suggesting that we have to do these things that we know, because that's how we pay the bills. And this book is a system of doing. And to the point where I've got trackers in the book that you can go to my website and download. I've got planners. This is a proactive call planner. This is the system portion. So the book is a system of selling more. And if we do this for just 5 minutes a day, guys, 5 minutes a day. I'm not saying I need 50 minutes a day. I don't need 5 hours a day. I'm not saying you're doing it wrong. I think you're doing it quite right. Quite right. You've been selling for a long time, right? You've been in business for a long time. I don't think you're doing it wrong. I don't think you have to tear anything down and rebuild it. I just think we need to add 5 minutes of proactive communications every day. That's the key. Not 5 minutes when you happen to think about it, but 5 minutes every day, all the time, for a long time, right? Over an extended period of time. And I think your sales will have no choice but to grow if we do that.
And this is your structure with the, it's a mix of mindset plus structure, but the structure creates the mindset for you. You know, like you hit the nail on the head there, saying that you're not going to tell anybody things here that they don't already know, but you're providing a platform in order to drill it into yourself. You know, like there's little things, like I know for myself, my day is a disaster if I don't make a list of the things I need to do and I need to cross them off, you know. And some days I don't do that because I don't have it drilled into myself to do it. Sometimes if I come back from vacation or something, I did this a couple of weeks ago, and I was sitting there and I was like, oh, what? I need to be working on something. And I was like, oh, I didn't create a list. That's the thing. And I'm missing something. And I had days where I was so busy, but at the end of the day, I was like, I felt like I got nothing done because I didn't have a list and I was crossing off everything on the list, you know?
That's right. That's right.
So it's just, yeah, I like the approach because it's not new, but it's presenting it on a platter for you and saying, okay, this is how you change your mindset.
I mean, I've said the same. I told you I'm doing 55 interviews. I've literally held the book up like this. And I said, if you have half an interest of growing sales, this is actually, it's yellow, but it's a silver platter, you know? And everything you need is here. First of all, everything you need is already in your head. You already know, right? What I'm doing with the book is just honing in on some techniques that will make money quickly. The wins come quick, you know? And we could talk about the did you know example and telling people about what else you can do. But look, there's 2 planners and 2 trackers in the book. That's it. 2 planners and 2 trackers. So this is a proactive call planner where you sit down for 5 minutes at the beginning of a week and write down who you're going to call. Andy, I think that most people don't make proactive calls because we don't know who to call when we have a moment to do so. We don't have anything in our lives that tells us who we should call. We have a lot of lists of names and numbers in our lives, right? I have a contact book in my phone. I have emails with lots of names and numbers. I have text messages with lots of names and numbers. And I have a CRM, indeed, with lots of names and numbers. But none of those things tell me who I should call today. That's what they're missing. So if you sit down for 5 minutes, not 5 hours and not 50 minutes, for 5 minutes, and write down a bunch of names. And I'll tell you some example. There's 8 categories of people you can call here, and I'll just read them. Customers who used to buy but stopped. What a great group of people to reach out to, right? Right now, everybody with us, try to think of 5 customers who used to buy but stopped. You can't do it because they're not in our heads. They're not the ones calling us all day. We're not calling them because we're just answering the phone all day being reactive because that keeps us busy enough, very busy enough. And so, and also, by the way, when they go away, they don't call us to break up with us, right? They just go away quietly. And so write down some names and say, hey, I miss you, right? I miss you. I'd like to help you again. Here's another category, great category. customers I haven't talked to in 3 months or more. Again, try to think of 5 customers you haven't talked to in 3 months. You can't do it because they're not in your head, because they're not calling in and you're not calling them. So we have to sit and intentionally choreograph proactivity. I'm going to repeat that. Choreograph proactivity. Choreograph our proactive communications out to customers and prospects. We have to write it down and then go through your week and make your calls. While you make your calls, write them down on the action tracker. The action tracker is simply a place to log the communications you have made. And so what it has is who is the customer? Give me the day, the date, the customer name. What did you do? Did you make a proactive call? Did you ask a did you know question? Was it a quote follow-up? We'll talk about all these things. Was it a handwritten note? That's one of my very high-tech things, a handwritten note. Is it a referral request? What did you do? So you write down the code. There's a code for every one of those actions. There's 16 actions. I think 8 of them are phone calls. And then the core sort of hardworking bits on the planner are the middle 2 fields here, this one and this one. And that says, what did you say? What did they say? What did you say? What did they say? So write down a line. So I called Andy. I said, did you know that I can add 10 to 20% annually to your sales? Because that's what I do, to your organization sales, to your company. That's what I said. He said he didn't know. He's very interested. We have a call scheduled for Tuesday. That's all you need to write down. And the final field here, Andy, this one is kind of my favorite one. And that is, I want you to assign a dollar value to your 3-second action, to your did you know question. A dollar value. How much is this did you know question worth? So if Andy's interested in a project with me, that's a big dollar value. That's a 6-figure dollar value for me, right? But if you're selling a product, it might be $1,000. And if you're selling a service, it might be $10,000. Just write down whatever you think it's worth. And when you fill in this sheet, when the whole thing's filled out with details and information, you have yourself, and then you have a stack of sheets that have all, you're gonna, this one I think has 15 or 17 lines, and then you have another sheet under it and another sheet, and another sheet. And you have yourself a gold mine of opportunities to follow up on. A gold mine of what you've done and opened and progressed and even closed. And so what you also have, besides the gold mine of opportunities to follow up on, you have proof of your success here. When this is filled in with all the good work you've done and all the positive things you've accomplished and the sales you've opened and the people you've helped, and each line will help you remember that positive moment and conversation that you had. And it's going to be proof of your success. It's going to give you energy and optimism and enthusiasm for doing more of this. These sheets become fuel for doing more of this work. And again, we're starting to touch on mindset now. It's a system in 5 minutes a day of growing your sales significantly. Look, I've seen people double their sales with this in 5 minutes a day. I've seen individual salespeople triple their sales in 5 proactive minutes a day, because 1,000 proactive conversations out of 10 voicemails in 5 minutes a day, right? It's not the individual voicemail. It's the 2,400 voicemails over the year. It's the system. The system is everything. The individual actions, Andy, they're fleeting, right? They're snowflakes that fall to the ground and melt. But a year's worth of 5 minutes of action, right? That's a freaking blizzard, man. That's a blizzard of activity, of energy, of business opened, business progressed, and business closed.
Sure. I mean, as I said before, it makes sense. It's capitalizing on spending the right time within those 5 minutes and doing the right things. But so Patricia touched on one point here, which a couple of others have raised around the new business part. So let's say, for example, you're starting a new business yourself, which you've done, right? So you've got your agency here. How can people use that structure to start their follow-up process or their outreach process for creating completely net new stuff? Like if you don't have the network, perhaps, if you're trying to get in, like how do you start?
Yeah, I don't know if she's asking about it, and I'll answer your question. I don't know if she's asking about a new business or simply developing new business, right?
Developing new business, let's say from both sides, because there was one before around like completely new, starting up.
Right. So
and then also new business.
I think even if you're trying to start a new business or develop new business from zero, right? If you're a new rep, let's say, and whatever, maybe Patricia can help us with what she means, and we'll try to address her question specifically. But I think the answer is all of us know hundreds of people, regardless of whether it's day one for you or, you know, day 10,000 for you. We all know hundreds of people, right? Sure. Unless you're 21 years old out of school and you've literally never worked before, right? We all know hundreds of people. And so what we need, and let me elaborate further. If you don't know hundreds of people, you don't know any people, let's say you're that 21-year-old, you call people who would recognize the company's name, right? All we need is to be recognized, is to anchor our name or the company name somehow in the customer prospect's brain. And so all we need to do is be recognized somehow. So I would suggest that whether you're cold calling or developing brand new business from zero, you know many people who would recognize your name and be happy to talk to you, Patricia. And what you do is you call them and you say, Joe, it's Patricia. Hi, I was thinking about you. And as soon as you say I was thinking about you, you've got them. That's it. It's magical language because they feel honored that you were thinking about them. And you say, how are you? How's your family? And what are you working on these days that I might be able to help you with? So you pivot gently to the business. You catch up personally. How are the kids? What do they do this summer? What about school? How's that going to go where you are, right? Where are you guys working from? Are you home or are you in the office? We have so much in common with people now, right? So you catch up with somebody on a human level, and then you pivot gently to the business. What do you got going on that I can help you with? You know, you might say, what projects do you have coming up that I can help with? And that's a reverse did you know question. So a did you know question is we ask the customer about specific products or services of ours. A reverse did you know question is you ask the customer what they need and what they're looking for, and they name the product back to you.
So with this did you know piece, Patricia just wrote back here, she's just asked, how does this work when you're a relatively new business offering a new approach or product? Again, I think it goes back to what you just mentioned. You're going to have, you know, hundreds of people, regardless, even as a 21-year-old, as you mentioned, that particular example, I think working for a new company, a new rep, or maybe the company is just coming online, you're starting your own company at that young, you're still going to have some form of in front of your customer base.
Yeah.
There's going to be some contact that you have somewhere through, whether it's a parent or something, there's always going to be some form of in. And I think like to help with this particular piece here in terms of, you know, a new business offering, a new approach or product, I think the did you know question actually can help a lot here as well. Yep. So do you want to bring us through the did you know piece? Do you want to expand on that a little bit? Because I found that really interesting last time we spoke.
Yeah, and let's just say one more thing about Patricia's question, and then sort of move forward. So Patricia, you would write down on the call planner who you want to reach out to intentionally this week, right? You say what changes in your system when you are trying to develop new business. This system is to develop new business. There's no changes in the system. There's just the system to develop new business. That's what it is for. So you would write down who you're going to reach out to this week, and then you will do it. And then you will log it and track it. Whoops, not on the quote tracker, but on the action tracker, which I held up earlier. So developing business is no more complicated than trying to communicate with people and trying to help them. So if you want to grow, let people hear from you more. The more that people hear from you, the more they buy from you. The less that people hear from you, the less they buy from you. So if you're starting from zero, you should probably double down on the 5 minutes and maybe make them 10 and just, you know, double the number of outreach. Talk to people about how you can help them. That's it. You know, people say, what's the magic bullet? I think towards the end, I don't know, somewhere here, I have a chapter on there. Let me see. Chapter 37 is called The Work is the Magic Bullet. Because all of my clients grow, right? Everybody adds 10 to 20%, and some add a lot more. And these are big companies. I mean, I'm growing companies that are 100 million, 300 million, 500 million. They're adding a lot of sales. And they say, what's the secret? And the answer is there is no damn secret. The work is the secret. The grind is the secret. You know what the secret is, Patricia. You know now as we sit here. We got to talk to people. You know, there's no secret magic thing. We simply have to grind through communications. It's not hard if you break it down into 5 minutes. You know, even you can do 5 minutes. You know, even if you hate selling, I've heard from people, well, this relaxes me. Even I can do 5 minutes. You know, even I can do that. And so that's the work. You want to do Did You Know?
Yes, the Did You Know question. Yes, please.
Can I tell a story about it?
You may, of course.
So I was at the Minneapolis airport buying an iced coffee because that's what I drink. Here's the sad remnants of the current one. And I was getting my coffee, and there was a young lady behind the counter. She was 20 years old. And she said to me, would you like a bottle of water with that? And I said, oh my God, she just asked me the Did You Know question. I said, they teach you how to ask this question? She said, yes, they do. It's a part of our training. I said, how many people buy a bottle of water? She said, almost everybody. So guess how much the water cost, Andy? At the airport, it was like one of these fat bottles of water. Guess how much the water cost?
$7 or something.
Yeah, $5 bucks. The water cost $5. The coffee cost $3.
There you go.
I was buying a $3 coffee. She sold me a $5 water. With this simple question, would you like a bottle of water with that? This coffee shop nearly triples its revenue from $3 to $8. With water, not with coffee, not with their main product, but with an add-on ancillary product. And so the question for you guys is, what is your bottle of water? What are your customers buying from you day after day, week after week? And what are they buying elsewhere over here that they need? I would say the majority of our customers can probably buy more from us, which they're currently buying elsewhere, right? And we know what else they need. If they buy this thing, they probably need these other things too. And we just need to ask them about it, right? And then you guys might be thinking, but I told them already, you know? I told them. And then you heard this thing, which no salespeople have ever heard before. I didn't know you did that, right? Ever hear that, guys? I didn't know you did that. Like, what do you mean? I just told you 2 weeks ago and you had the exact same reaction. I didn't know it was you, right? We were looking at each other just like we are now. So just because we tell somebody something doesn't mean they know. And then other times salespeople will say, well, if they want it, they'll ask me for it, for this other product. If they want it, they'll ask. No, they won't. They won't ask. They don't know. They don't know. They've got you niched. I went there for my coffee. They're there. Caribou Coffee is there for coffee. Hudson's Gift Shop down the terminal, there for water. Not the coffee shop. They niche you. Look, I have a client that sells paint, Andy. They're a manufacturer of paint, and they have customers who only buy a single color from them, but they buy another color from somebody else. So they have a customer that literally only buys black paint from them. Many customers that only buy black paint, but the white paint, they get that somewhere else. So they've got them niched into black paint. And so our Did You Know is literally our Did You Know you can buy white paint here? Did you know we can also help you with red paint? And of course, there's all kinds of different kinds of paints and, you know, finishes and sealants and so forth. But it's a 3-second question to increase your order size and forever, permanent order size with your customers and your prospects. And in 5 minutes, I can ask 100 Did You Know questions. And we know statistically, Andy, that 20% of those close. We know statistically over millions of Did You Know questions that we track all across all my clients, all businesses, all clients, all industries. We know 20% close. Ask 5, close 1. Ask 50, close 10. Ask 5,000, close 1,000. And these are first-time purchases that become repeat purchases in a hurry, right? This is when you sell a new product or service to an existing customer, that is going to be a gold mine of repeat business for you on that product. So what we're doing here is we're stacking repeat purchases of new products. And when you do that, again, business grows quickly. Business grows easily because we're stacking repeat orders on top of each other of new things in 3 seconds. It's a system of 3-second efforts done consistently over time.
With the did you know question, I've got a question for you on that. When you're trying to build those as a rep or in an organization, where do you normally start? Like, how do you, like, it's if you've got a complex sales process or a complex product, or where do you start with saying, okay, I need to build out my did you know questions for a prospect that I'm reaching out to, or an existing customer? Where do I start?
Yeah, it's good. So there's no perfect list. There's just a list. So you start with your product list. You start with your service list. You go to your own website and you see the different things that you order. You go to your product catalog and you look at what you order. Everything in the product catalog is a DYK, a did you know. And further, so in my last book, Selling Boldly, which is here, there is a did you know planner. And the did you know planner works like this. If the customer buys this product, here is what else they probably need. And under that product, you make a list of additional things that they probably need if they buy this thing. But if the customer buys this service, here is what else they probably need. You make a list. And then you keep the list in front of you, just like you would with the proactive call planner. And when somebody calls you to talk about one thing, you bring up the other thing. And the beauty with did you know questions for everybody is that you can ask them to people who are calling in, right? We don't even need to call out to ask did you know questions. All those customers that are calling in with urgencies or problems, solve the problem, then say, hey, by the way, did you know I can also help you with this or that? 3-second efforts.
I mean, so how many clients have you implemented this did you know piece with? Like, you've mentioned that it 20% close rate on those did you know questions. What type of population size are we talking about here in terms of deal size? How many deals are we looking at that you've been looking at from a data perspective?
Across all my clients. Across
all your clients, we're talking just to give people a flavor in terms of what data we're working off of here.
Yeah, I mean, so let's say so I've been doing this work about 13 years. Let's say over the last 10 years, I average about 1 new client a month. So that's 12-ish big project clients. Let's say that's thousands and thousands of salespeople all together, probably close to 10,000, maybe over 10,000. Many millions of did you know questions, many millions. Because one client has 500 salespeople. Sure. 500 salespeople is, if they ask 5 did you know questions a day, right? It's going to be hard to do the math, right? 2,500 a day, 12,500 a week, 50, 60,000 a month, and 7, 8, 900,000 did you know questions a year. And we track them all. They all get logged into the CRM.
Numbers are insane, man. Those numbers are insane.
And so 20%, now they're a distributor of products and they have 10,000 different products that are in their catalog, right? They're a plumbing and HVAC company. I work in very sexy industries. So if you're asking 900,000 did you know questions and 20% close, right? I mean, that's 250,000 new line items. And most of those things are purchased repeatedly. And so that's why I have a manufacturing client that's a $300 million business in Canada. They are up using these techniques 60% on the West Coast, 70% on the East Coast, 50% in the South. They started at $300 million. So I'm not growing $3 million companies here, right? These are big businesses. And individual salespeople, they're up double, triple their personal sales, right? We did recognition as a part of the work everywhere. And they had a salesperson that came out in the last recognition piece. That's up like 3,000%. 3,000%, just one person. So when you arm people with a system, it's like people always tell me that, millennials don't like to use the phone. They make this stupid assumption that millennials won't use the phone. And where that is coming from is they haven't experienced in their business millennials using the phone. That's what they should be saying, right? My answer to them is young people do the best with this work, right? It's not that they don't want to use the phone, it's that nobody's ever taught them how to use the phone. right? Nobody's ever shown them a system of using the phone. Nobody's ever handed them tools with which to use the phone. We assume that everybody should just know how to sell on the phone. They don't. Nobody teaches us in high school or college how to sell on the phone. We don't know. And even now, Andy, as we all sit here, right? It's a pandemic, right? Everybody's doing the same thing. We're all sitting at our desks. You know, I'm at home. I don't know. Are you you seem like you're at the office, right?
I'm actually at home.
You're at home?
I play
that
it very
whiteboard
well.
and yeah.
Just yeah.
Yeah. So
smoke and mirrors.
We're all doing the same thing. Everybody's sitting at their desk at home. We're not traveling anywhere. We're not meeting with anybody. We're just sitting at our desk. And next to us on our desk is our phone, right? Is your phone nearby? Do you have it there?
It's in my pocket.
There you go. Couldn't be more near, right? It's literally touching you. And yet, we don't use those phones. Our customers are more reachable than ever. When you connect with them now, you're going to have a great, deep conversation. I don't know if you guys are noticing this, but when you actually do connect with somebody, you have nice, long, deeper, more meaningful conversations with people because they're hungry for that connection. And nobody's calling the phone. Now, we assume their phones are ringing off the hook. They're not. They're not ringing. Nobody's calling, right? Do you get a lot of phone calls, Andy, from people when nothing is wrong? That's the key. When nothing is wrong, the people who say, Andy, how you doing? I was thinking about you, man. How's your family? Now, what are you working on these days that I can help with? Do you get calls like that?
No. And another point to you as well, just to back up your point here. In the past, I would say 3 weeks. You want to know how many phone calls I got? Cold outreach or even like semi-warm outreach?
How many?
0 calls.
Yeah.
Not a single call.
Me too. I got one a month and a half ago, and I remember it precisely. I literally remember the whole conversation because it was the last one I had, and it was a month and a half ago.
You know, it's funny because it's prior to everybody going into lockdown, and like we've spoken about this in so many of the webinars that like prior to that, I'd get many calls a week. I don't know how many, but like many, in the 20s at least. And it's gone from 20s to 0. And I don't think it's because I don't think it's just because something's changed on my side. It's because people aren't picking up the phone. They're like maybe afraid to, or I don't know what it is. But I've seen the stats as well as phone calls. I've been speaking with a company. I can't remember the top of my head, but what they do is they do multi-dial. So basically what it is it's dialing out to many numbers, and when a connect happens, you then get connected as a rep, right? And what they're seeing is the connect rate when they're actually reaching out to people is through the roof, month-on-month growth. When they actually since maybe June, it's been rising. Whereas prior to that, people wouldn't answer the phone. You know, in the past, before the pandemic, whatever, people were like, okay, totally. I'm too busy. But now you're actually got a higher chance of actually getting through to somebody than ever before, I reckon.
Totally. They've never been more reachable, ever.
Sure.
And also, they've never wanted to connect more with humans because we're all isolated, right?
Yeah.
We're not seeing people. And they want to hear from you, and they want to be helped by you, and they need to be helped by you, and we don't. You know, people have said to me many times, Andy, over this pandemic, many times, dozens of times, I've heard some version of, well, how can I morally try to sell to people now, right? How can I morally try to sell to people? And my answer is always, how can you morally not try to be helping people now? You know, now they need you now more than ever. They need you. They need you now. Don't hurt them by not helping them. You know, it's almost tragic. People want to be helped more than ever, and we are so afraid of trying because they might reject us, and then I might die if they reject me, that we don't try. You know, so if you want, we can get into that mindset a little bit, because that's the thing that keeps us from doing this.
I think it's just before we do that, just one question that came in here from Liz. In the context of Leadfeeder, how do we recommend to reach out to promising leads that were on the site but didn't reach out? So, I mean, that's part of our bread and butter. That's what we offer as a product. Mm-hmm. It's recognizing, I mean, where the real value is recognizing the companies that aren't filling out forms on your site. People that are visiting that are maybe, you know, looking at product pages, looking at pricing pages that are showing high intent,
Yeah.
But are like, okay, I'm not going to fill out a contact us form. I'm not going to download anything. I'm just coming to your site and leaving. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm
So
curious, how would you answer Liz's question? What do you, how do we apply these things we're talking about now to Leadfeeder, since you know it better than me? And what would that look like?
very simply, using your format here, I'd still do my my list of people that I want to speak with, but based off of who's been visiting my site. It goes back to your initial point in that, hey, reach out to people that know you, that know your company at least,
Yeah.
right? Leadfeeder, you recognize the companies that are coming to your site, so therefore you can figure out who the persona is from that specific company, and then start doing reach out to them, right? So it's still using your philosophy, but prioritizing within your philosophy there. Because I'm going to
And
reach out to those people that have been most busy on my site,
yeah,
because they're showing the highest intent.
yeah, totally. And look, if they've been on your site and they filled out a form, they know what Leadfeeder is. So, my short answer to Liz is call them. Pick up the phone and call them and say, hi, it's Liz from Leadfeeder. Tell me a little bit more about your work because I'd like to help you. Thanks for filling out the form. That's it, Liz. That's how hard this is. And if you do that a bunch of times, you'll grow your business. That's it.
For sure. And in that respect, just with if they even if they haven't filled out the form, which we would show the company that's coming that hasn't filled out the form, it still gives you that information about what they've been looking at, where they've come from, how long they've been on the site, etc.
Yeah.
Use that as another means in which to prioritize. It's a prioritization thing.
A couple questions, Andy, a little higher, actually just before Patricia's question, which we spent some time on. I just want to, is it okay to rattle those off real quick? Because I want to make sure.
Go for it, because we have about 7 minutes left.
All right.
So please
All right.
go for it.
So Sridhar says, do you leave a voicemail on their cell phone or their business phone? Doesn't make a difference. I think today, cell phone is the phone that they have with them. And many times they're not near the business phone. Many times the business phone message box is full because they're just not checking it, So I would say definitely prioritize cell phone. And if you have the cell phone, you have another huge advantage is you can text it. You can't text the business phone. So go for cell, Sridhar, if you can get it. Earlier, Liz said, do you find that video calls or Zoom calls are better than the phone? It requires setup, takes longer, but can it be more valuable? So Liz, great question. It's really important to note that everybody who's not using the phone is very happy to use the Zoom because the Zoom gets scheduled. The Zoom is a meeting. It's expected. And the odds of rejection on the Zoom are a lot lower than the odds of rejection on the phone. And so salespeople tend to be a lot more comfortable with Zoom than with the phone. Two thoughts. One, people are getting zoomed out. There's a lot of Zoom. There's a lot of Zoom.
True.
I've started Zoom calls with people. Now you schedule a phone call and people will automatically send you a Zoom link. And I'm like, I don't want to Zoom. I just want to talk on the phone. So many times I've started a Zoom call and I say to my client or my prospect, can we just go to the phone so that we can just talk to each other? Because I don't want to stare at a box anymore today, right? Everybody's a little box on the screen. So people are getting zoomed out. Two, use Zoom as a replacement for meetings, but not a replacement for phone calls. So replace your meetings with Zoom, but don't replace your calls with Zoom. And that's my thinking on that. Make sure that, look, I think the phone today is as important to us salespeople as it was in the 1980s when we had nothing else, when it was the only tool. There was no email. That's how important the phone is. And if you can get good at the phone now, you will separate yourself from the competition so much that they will never be able to catch up. They'll never be able to make up the distance that you will put between you and them now with the phone. So use the phone as much as you can. Let's see here. Alex, considering I'm new in sales, which book of yours would you recommend to me to read? Alex Ionkin, I would say go to Selling Boldly first because it talks about mindset and how do we get our thinking right in terms of our optimism and our gratitude, and because you can't outsell your mindset. And then go to 5-Minute Selling second. But if you can buy a copy of 5-Minute Selling this week, that would be ideal. Because it's launch week, and that's what we do on launch week. Good. What would you recommend is the best time of day or the week of the day? What would you recommend is the best time of day to make these calls? first thing in the morning is the best time, because by 1 o'clock, you're going to be neck deep in reactive work. So first thing in the morning. Mark Twain said, if you're going to eat a frog, do it first thing in the morning, because it's not going to taste any better later in the day. And if you got to eat 2 frogs, eat the bigger one first. Do the hardest thing first. So it's uncomfortable to use the phone. Do it first thing, and then get on with your day.
That's great advice. I think starting off, I've heard, I can't remember who said it recently. It was similar to what Mark Twain said. It was, if you don't start the day with doing something that you don't particularly enjoy, you're never going to get around to doing it. And it's so true. It's even the same with making your bed first thing in the morning. There's an army colonel that came out and said, if you want to start off with being an excellent or an outstanding human being, make sure you make your bed first thing every morning. And that's when you get stuff done,
Nice.
So it's just a small, simple thing, but make your bed and then the rest of the day. Alex says, can you tell my wife that, please? I'll let her know, Alex.
Nice.
But yeah, so look, we're coming to the end now, and I just want to see if there's a couple more questions. There's a couple of questions here in the Q&A. So let me just double check. What are the other 8 categories of people that you should call? So you mentioned 1 or 2 of the categories before. Can you list off a couple more of those categories that you have on the list, Alex?
Yeah, sure. So there's 5 prospects and, there's 5 types of customers and 3 types of prospects. And so I'll just do them real quick. My best customers who can buy more from me. So we have to think through those people. My smaller and medium customers who can buy more from me. So now I'm talking about the people that are in the 900, right, Andy? So we call the 100, that's my best customers who can buy more. But what about in the 900, which is my smaller and medium customers who can buy more? Customers who used to buy but stopped, we mentioned those. Customers who recently received products or services that we can follow up with. Tremendous category of people, right? Hey, did you get it? Did everything go okay? Are you good? Great. Now, what else do you need that I can help you with? The reverse did you know question, incredibly powerful. What else do you need that I can help you with? What other products do you buy from my competition that I can help you with? What's on your wish list? Tremendous questions. Customers I haven't talked to in 3 months or more. Prospects I am currently having active buying conversations with. Again, we want to, because if we're not listing them anywhere, we're going to forget them. We're going to forget them. Prospects I once talked to, but they did not buy. So people you've already chatted with, come back to them. So I still want to help you. We didn't connect last time. I'd still be interested in helping you. Know where are you at? And then finally, prospects I know are buying elsewhere now. So they're buying from your competition and say, hey, I know you're over there. What do I have to do to bring you over here? Again, I want to help you. Look, every single example I've given you almost had the word help in it, didn't it? Every single one. I just want to help. I was having a conversation with a big prospect for me, I don't know, a week or so ago. And I was sitting outside on my phone and we were talking for an hour. There's a company I've been chasing for like a year and more, even a couple years. And it was the first time I've talked to this person. And so we had a good call and really connected together well. And as we were hanging up, he said, Alex, if you could see the smile on my face when you were, putting me to a close and, trying to nail down the next date for the conversation and stuff. And because it was great. It was great selling. And I said, so this is my prospect telling me about great selling, right? And I said to him, I did all that. I didn't even know I was doing all that. I was just having a conversation. I said, I'm just trying to help, man. So if you go into the conversation simply and honestly trying to help the customer, they're going to say to you, or they're going to think to themselves, oh my God, right? Somebody wants to help me. They will grab onto you and they will never let go because they don't have too many people like that. Andy said he hasn't had a call from the last 3 weeks, right? I remember my last calls was a month and a half ago. If somebody called me and said, Alex, I want to help. How can I help? I will literally rack my brain trying to find ways and things that I can buy from this person, right? People will feel like they owe you business. And clients have said that to me, right? He's trying so hard that I feel like I owe him. So just help people and they will thank you with their money.
I fully agree with you. And Alex, I think we can wrap things up on that point. A couple of things just from my side. I'll just share my screen again. please, I just sent a note there into the group, into the chat, just around where you can find 5 Minute Selling. So you can get that via Amazon. And a couple of other pieces here. Next week we'll be doing an account-based marketing panel with a couple of guys that we've spoken with before around the topic, and guys that are really rehearsed in that space. So we'll have Alice from Cognism, Alex from Reach Desk, and Deck from Strategic IC. So guys, it'd be great to have you on again next week. Alex, thank you so much again. It's been really fantastic, and I wish you really all the very best with the rest of the week. I hope your voice survives. Thank you. And how many more interviews have you got left this week?
Oh, this week? Well, let's see. 4 more today and 5 more tomorrow. So 9.
Tough going, man. Okay, so you'll definitely deserve a beer at the end of the week. That's for sure.
Deserve a beer in like an hour for lunch.
Also, okay, I'll allow it. Alex, thank you so much, mate. It's been great, yeah?
Thank you all. Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for spending some time with us.
Cheers, guys.